Well, we have a very special guest joining us on the show today. A creative visionary that I've come to know, who is the author of a book that you can get. It's at Giant Panda King. I'm going to pull up the website later. The book is called Gotham 1919 to 1939. It is a coffee table hardcover book that is a vision of Batman as if Batman really existed in Prohibition era, early 1900s. It features photographs and articles about villains like the Joker, Two-Face. It features photos of Batman, and it's all you're seeing. We're going to bring up some pictures later. This book is it is like a lookbook for a Batman that if Warner Brothers was smart, they would do this. He has other upcoming books, including Metropolis, among others. Russell is also a filmmaker who has made films, and he's also the creator of a series. This is how I got to know Russell. He's the creator of a series of burlesque shows, including The Empire Strips Back, which I strongly recommend you look up. The Empire Strips Back, which is coming to Canada, I believe, next year. Joining us on the show today, Russell Beattie.
Hello.
How's it going, man? I wanted to really do a big build-up.
I know. I was like, who are you describing?
I should have done it like a wrestling match, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
There he is. But yeah, so first, and I'm going to bring up your website. And if you, in the private chat, you can send me links and I can show those links or anything you want.
Oh, okay. I did email some to you earlier, about a half an hour ago.
Put it in the private chat. We'll bring it up. I'll look up the website first. But tell me first, you are the
Sorry, Chris, can I just introduce myself to Alan? Hello, Alan.
Hey.
I know Chris, but I have never met Alan before, so I just want to introduce.
You tried to get me to your shows, and my wife has prevented that.
Every wife caves eventually. I make the shows mainly for women first. If they approve, then I know the guys are going to like it regardless. So, I've made it for a date-friendly thing. Sorry, Chris.
So tell me, first of all, what led to the creation of this book? And I'm told that you want to do a giveaway today. I don't know how we do the giveaway, but
I'll leave that up to you how to do the giveaway. You just tell me who you want me to send it to. But essentially what we did, I was in love with this period. I've always loved Batman. And then when you research Batman and you find out what the references were, everyone knows, Conrad from the Man Who Laughed and things like that, as key elements. And then where I went from there was, okay, what if everyone looked like this kind of surrealism, silent film surrealism kind of period? And I thought, what if Batman was made in the 20s and 30s as that kind of period? And the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to bring that to life. And I actually brought it to life first as a stage show, a small little stage show called The Batman Follies of 1929. And the research of that was so fun, because I was just finding real points of history where the characters could line up. And there was so much, because a lot of comics is taken from real history. And then trying to find characters what might not work, trying to make them work within a kind of cohesive narrative set over a 20-year period. So Batman starts in 1919 and finishes in 1939. And that kind of lines up with the end of World War I and the start of World War II. So it's that period in between where, the world kind of changed very dramatically over that 20-year period. And it's a history book that uses Batman as the context, essentially. And all that research, I don't know, it might have been an ego thing, but I just didn't want it to go to waste. So I kind of put it down into a book, and I spent a long time making this book. I didn't do it in a 6-month period. I did over 10 years because I have a lot of other things I work on as well. But it's also, I wanted the characters to age as natural as they could through there. So you see Bruce Wayne start off in his 20s, late 20s, about 28, at the start of the book, and then I bring the gentleman back when he's almost 40. You know, my Dick Grayson, it was, I think, 11 when I first shot with him, and then I shot with him when he was 21. You know,
That's a commitment right there. That's insane. We're showing
well,
pictures from your website, Giant Panda King. I'll put the link in. Here's the link to your website, and we'll put the link in the description of this video. You can go to giantpandaking.com. It's remarkable, the book, because you've written this sort of alternative history, and it makes so much sense to have Batman have existed in like this Prohibition era 1920s with all these crazy villains coming up. It's a vision of Batman. I mean, they tried something different with The Batman with Robert Pattinson. It was, you know what? I like a lot of things about it, but what you did is just so above and beyond. And what I love about it too is when you talk to like Quentin Tarantino, you ask him what's your favorite era to make movies, set your movies in, and he says anything before cell phones. Like, technology has made these movies, like it's created new challenges for screenwriters, and made it like so social media exists in the world of, you know, Marvel. And it just, I don't know. I think there's a more innocent time is a better place to tell a story.
Totally. And like, you know, you got to look at what Batman is and his characters. You know, they're created in a very much more simpler time. And then it gets to a point where you have to, you know, what was the comic where Batman re-enters from space after the Justice League Watchtower gets destroyed, and he uses his suit can withstand, you know, coming in through the atmosphere and heating up, except for his face. So he rips off his underwear and puts over his face, and that's how a modern writer justifies having the underwear, is that when he needs to, he can use it as a bulletproof thing for his face or heat resistance. And it's just kind of getting ridiculous when you have to kind of invent things. Like, I'm not a big fan of putting in things on top of existing, you know, structure. So if you have a character, or if you have you know, sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
I just need to put my phone on silent.
There you go,
because it's linked to my iPad.
I'm showing some of your other books that the
upcoming ones.
Books. Yeah, Themyscira, and there's also Metropolis. So, and the thing is this, I think what I did was I got the deluxe version. So when you sent me the book, I just ordered it when I found you on Instagram. Okay. So you
bought one of the early copies, if I remember.
One of the early copies, which came with a Batarang and a poster of the Justice League. My mind was so blown. I thought, like, Warner Brothers should just hire you. James Gunn should just hire you. How is James Gunn not aware of this? And if you had any question for you, have you had any interaction from a legal standpoint or anything from DC or Warner Brothers?
For this project, no. For other projects, definitely. You know, like, I do a lot of parody burlesque shows, and there is a beautiful gray area with a lot of the stuff you can work within. But you have to be legit. You know, you have to make sure you spend the money on the lawyers. You have to make sure you do your research. You have to update it all the time. And there's certain things I do, but also the main thing is it has to be transformative. It can't be just something they could produce and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, I push the line on a lot of this stuff, but if they don't want me to make better shit. So that's simple. You know, the fans aren't getting what they deserve. Don't you think it's funny? We've had 60 years of Jokers, but we've never had a Joker accurate to the comics, live action. True. You know, like, these are things. It's not hard to please the fans, but they're just not doing it. So until they tell me to stop, I'll keep doing it.
Did your lawyers have a major concern at one point, or were they pretty much like, yeah, you're doing it the right way?
Oh no, all lawyers have concerns. They just glad to stop.
What do you think was the most challenging concern?
So for example, it's always trademarks. It comes down to trademark mainly. Mm-hmm. So if you look at things like when I did a Game of Thrones burlesque show, you know, I called it Game of Thrones burlesque at the start. That was my early period, and I got an email 2 days before my first show from the HBO. No, I got the email on the way to the first show because I was at a theater in Canberra. And as a, you know, cease and desist, you can't use that. And I looked at it, and then I realized, okay, they're mainly concerned about the trademark and it being confused that this is an official production. You know, that was the main thing. So it's mainly the main thing you need to get across, that this is transformative. It is non-official production. there are a few things. I'm not going to give all my free legal advice away that you have to do. But it's also one of those things that, like, HBO were cool with the changes I made. So I changed the name of the show to Dames of Throne. So it was an obvious kind of departure. And then I did a few things just, with the way I worded it, as description, the kind of way the images kind of looked. And then within 6 months, HBO were hiring me to put on their Game of Thrones launches in Australia for each season. I did the ones at the Opera House, at the State Theatre, because I was the only one. I was the only one with, like, at that time, with accurate, like, costumes, and characters. If you look at that show, like, that show is pretty freaking accurate as far as the costumes go. I've got, like, White Walkers and giants and everything in that show. And
Wow.
like, my giant is 10 foot tall. It moves and walks and all that stuff.
Wow.
Hey,
yeah,
the chat is on fire with questions for you, and we're going to do the
asking
giveaway.
why I don't wear sleeves.
Well, the chat's on fire, so let's get to some of these questions. But secondly, we will be doing a giveaway at the end of the show, which will be close to the top of the hour. So let's go. 2-penny puppet for $4.99. Guys, I've seen Scarface a bunch of times on TV, but never on the big screen. I went to see it last Sunday, and the whole third act just blew me away. I saw it. This is unrelated to this, but I saw it when I was a kid, when it was first in theaters. So Solomon Thornton, and thank you for that, 2-penny puppet. Solomon Thornton asks, Sir Russell, what is your favorite Batman comic? Wow.
It's a big one. I suppose for me, it's always going to be something that kind of recontextualized Batman for me at the time. Probably The Dark Knight Returns is always going to be in there, because it's like punk rock when it came on the scene. It just changed the industry. It wasn't just the comic, it was what the comic represented as a whole. But I'm a child of the 90s comics. So, like, realistically, I always love Born Again, the Robin Tim Drake introduction series. Things like that, because I was of that age when I still found that stuff really magical, and kind of inspired. So I grew up on, like, Tim Drake, Carl Ragnar, and whatnot. Like, they were all my kind of characters, what were introduced in the monthly issues at the time. So I've got a soft spot for, like, early to mid 90s kind of comic runs, even though they were so ridiculous at the time.
Another question here from Brock Samsonite asks, so is your version of Batman like Rex Banner?
No, it's more like, so, okay, this is the way I came up with the characters. But for all the characters in the book, they have to have a real life counterpart. So for my Batman, I pulled from Howard Hughes. To me, he's the main inspiration for what you could do with money and ambition and a drive. But also, dressing up as a Batman, having this much commitment, could be mental illness at the same time, which we're all familiar with how Hughes struggles and whatnot. And, like, I always saw Batman's ending, Bruce Wayne's ending, not nice. Like, I always saw him kind of, being locked away in a hotel room, being tortured from the demons of his past. So that's kind of, if you go through the book and whatnot, you'll just see a lot of similarities to real life people in the book.
So it's Harley Quinn, Lucille Ball at that point.
She's more based on, Harley Quinn's interesting because I actually changed it a bit, because I had her as the inspiration for that kind of little girl voice movement of, like, Betty Boop, Helen Kane, was it? And all those characters at that point who, stuck with that oopsie doop kind of thing, which, Harley draws a lot from. But I kind of put in that she was the basis for that, because she became this kind of publicity machine for the press at that point, because the press had a field day with her. She was loved by them, and she was very much based on, like, if you look at things like $1 Million Mermaid, how the press loved her, and also a big part is, like, Bonnie and Clyde, for her and the Joker, but also the couple what the Badlands film's based on. I forget their name off the top of my head, but where she gets so kind of enwrapped in this man's energy and power and charisma that she goes on this kind of spree. And I never saw her and the Joker being long lasting. I see that more of like a crime spree that lasts like 3 or 4 months and just terrorizes the country and the city, but I wanted a girl who to play Harley who looks like the ultimate girlfriend and the worst ex-girlfriend at the same time.
There's so many questions here. I hope we can get through most of them.
I'll try not to talk as long.
Spidey Sensei 72 asks, is Gotham available to order on Amazon?
No, I'm kind of outside the system, unfortunately. That's why probably most people don't know who I am. I don't work for studios. I don't work for other companies. I just work for myself and do my things direct for public. So usually if you see one of my shows, I'm usually there. I'm not with Star Wars at the moment because that's kind of outgrown me a bit. It's got its own life and trajectory at the moment. But for me, I just sell my stuff through my website. Now, even that is going to be changing. I'll be shutting down my website next month. This will be my last pushing out of my
So this is the
books for a while.
last time you'll be able to get the book.
For a while, yeah, because I'm not... especially online. Like I am gonna I find online everyone's used to Amazon culture, which is next day delivery. I'm one person who does all this. Like I run the website, I make this stuff, and it's my side thing. It's not even my main kind of creative outlet. Filmmaking and stage shows is what I mainly do. So it's very hard for me to maintain people's expectations, and I always warn them it might be late. Like I use printers in Korea, they travel. There's always something like COVID or delays in manufacturing or something will affect it, and people get really upset these days. So I'm kind of just doing one more run of it online, and I might bring it back, but it'll be limited engagement. So you join a mailing list, and then when I announce that I have it ready and available, you can buy it then, but I'll limit that to probably 1,000 each time kind of thing, because this for me is more like presenting artwork, like an art print, not mass consumption. It's people who aren't into Batman don't want to pay the price tag because that's how much it costs, unfortunately, when you're working at this level.
Here's some great comments. Let's see. All Twisted Up says, met Russell at LA Comic-Con after the Film Threat panel last year. Great job turning these franchises on their heads and giving them unique visions. So Spidey Sensei asks, 72 asks, what's your Instagram?
Giant Panda King. That's it. I don't have any other social media. I have one other account that has my face on it. I just use that for researching people. That sounds dodgy than I meant to say.
So look up Giant Panda King. Fletcher Williams says, when the parody is better than the original, the studios corporations don't care about the fans and the IP. So there you go. And then Alan Horkin asks, can you elaborate on your career path? Who inspired you? Are you a writer or something else?
It's a hard question because I'm more inspired by the early days of cinema. So your Buster Keatons, your Charlie Chaplins, your Lon Chaney's, those kind of guys. For me, he kind of did everything. So even today, like there's Beat Takakashi in Japan, who's still one of my biggest inspirations, and those kind of artists who don't let someone tell them. Don't wait to get permission. Don't wait for money. Don't wait for anything. They just want to create, and they're the people I respect. And for me, it's hard to kind of pinpoint what I do because it's just honestly, guys, it's not me bragging or flexing. I honestly think it's linked to some form of mental illness, but I kind of have to be involved in every process or at least understand it. So a lot of the time, I'm my own production designer, costume designer, props designer, writer, director, producer, casting. I drive the trucks. I do catering. I do what's needed. And that's pretty much it. Like, I don't want to sound off as, big talk or anything. It's just what you have to do to work at this level and have the freedom and the creativity. Because most of the industry is ruled by fear, and that's what you've got to realize. And the fact that they didn't care about fans, they never have, guys. They care about money. And, we live in a period where authenticity is very much lacking in the content we get produced. And I think that's about to shift because everyone's shown at the box office that no one wants this shit, and they want real stories, real people, real stunts, things that we connect to, because it's like, I suppose it's like going to see a magic show. We know it's fake, or wrestling for that matter. We know it's not real, but there's a relationship between the provider, the content provider, and the consumer. And we're like, we're going to let you do your thing. If we figure it out, you'll fail. But if you trick us, we're going to be engaged, and we're going to keep that. And that trust was there with cinema for a long time. But then somewhere when the corporations took it over in the 80s and 90s, and when it just became about money, then we lost that along the way, that magic and that relationship,
Flav for 10 pounds. Evening, guys. Hope you're all well. Quick question for Russell. I'm on the order page. If I request a signature in the additional instructions, any chance of that happening? I'm buying the book regardless. So
Yeah,
signature
I
required.
forgot. Yeah, I know. I have to get a bunch sent to me to sign then. Do it. I'm coming over to LA because that's all my books are in LA at the moment. I'm in Sydney, Australia.
Oh,
I'm coming
nice.
over to LA. I'm coming over to LA shortly because I'm working on a new show to open next year, early next year. So I'll make sure those signed ones will be available.
Awesome.
If
And
not, just get me on IG and I'll make sure it happens.
awesome. So Brock Samsonite asked, so is it an art book or a character study? Is there a story along with all those fresh looking images? I mean,
Yeah,
there
so it's a history book essentially. So it shapes it like a documentary. So it talks about what would have happened. It has artifacts in there. It has, you can see all the images on the screen. We have breakdowns. It's like, we say it's being put together by Renee Montoya. I think that's still the case in that one.
And let's see. The questions are just questions and comments. People are really into this. Rodney McKay says Cary Grant as Bruce and David Niven as Alfred. It would have been good.
Possibly.
Yeah. Iceman says that period really suits the whole Maroni, Falcone, Mafia versus Batman storyline. But how would you thread in the technology for Batman and his suit?
Well, that's the best thing about that period. Well, that was probably the biggest jump in technology during the two world wars we ever had. So there was all these experimental things, and a lot of the stuff in there, I use real things, I've modified them, but they're from real sources, a lot of it. So we've taken, I got a painting book from like the 30s, and it was all the different types of designs for the things we use now. So all these things got invented, but only a few of them got selected, to carry on through. And then you add in a little bit of, magic to kind of spice up the story to justify it, but it's meant to be based on all real things, unlike steampunk, where it's just kind of fantasy with engineering aesthetics. I try to start with this as engineering first before the aesthetics, and if it could work, and in theory, then would follow through with it.
Cool. Alan, did you see my note in the private chat?
Yes, I thought you had just left, and so okay, I'll take over.
All right, no, I got it.
Okay.
If pre-ordered, will they be out by Christmas 2023?
We have them available now. So if you order them now, they'll be delivered the next day.
Says Sean Hu. And Brock Samsonite asked, do you have anything film-wise coming out we can check out soon?
Yeah, so there's two things where I could probably talk about. So I'll be starting I've got a feature film which I'm wrapping up, and we're applying for festivals in February. So they'll be, if they get selected, they'll be at festivals around mid-year, but we hope to have it released to the public by the end of the year. And that's called Ugly Carter. It's a mixed hybrid film, which I made kind of during COVID because I was bored, and that doesn't make it sound cheap though. We've actually spent a lot of time and effort to make it look like it's got a studio behind it, and that will be coming out. And that's an experiment. That's my experiment of trying to invent a new kind of independent style film, which again sounds very ambitious, but it's what my intentions were. And the other thing I've got coming, starting in early next year, is a new YouTube channel called Fuck the Algorithm, PHUC. And basically it's making content what the algorithm doesn't want you to make. I will be putting on Hollywood on blast as far as what they've made, and I'll be deconstructing it. So there'll be these 10-minute documentaries. I'm only doing 6 of them, but they'll be all based on unique things. The first one is the Book of Boba Fett. And basically, I ripped that apart. I ripped that down. It does have a scene with me putting dildos on each executive of Disney on their heads. It's very much inspired by, I'm very much, I'm very much a provocateur and like challenging things what I don't think are right, and I don't think this stuff's right. What they're doing to this stuff. They're just saying, like, every time we give them money, they just put their hand back out and want more. But then at that one point, we were like happy to do it, but now they just don't give a shit, So we're going to deconstruct that. I'm going to do things that I know, and I'm not going to just, talk about what's wrong with Hollywood. I've actually gone and already shot a $20,000 Book of Boba Fett trailer if I did it.
Wow.
So you'll see how I've kind of what I did with Gotham, I'm doing with the Book of Boba Fett, and then I'll be continuing that with one called The Pale Smile. We're doing one on Tank Girl. We're going to be doing one on the original Mad Max. We'll be doing one on Akira, and the final one we'll end it with will be a secret, but we'll announce that once we start doing it. But they're going to be 6 films in total, like 10 minutes each, and then I'll probably close the channel down after that, because it's all about, for me, you can't sustain things. You shouldn't sustain things. It's not healthy to sustain your love for something till it turns toxic. They should give us stuff and move on. If I was in Marvel's situation at the moment, close down Marvel, kill it, and start X-Men. Everyone's been a break now. Do a new X-Men thing separated from Marvel. Just do a whole new X-Men universe. That's what people want. Do it grounded. Do it like, how they did The Fury, The Shining, Firestarter. Those films in the 70s what had great mutant powers. Stranger Things proved that there's an audience for that still. But do a contemporary version of it. And then when the time is right, when everyone's sick of X-Men, reinvent the Marvel universe. Like you do in comics. Just stay away from the multiverse. It never works in comics. Everyone thinks it's a lame idea.
We have a lot of questions, but unfortunately we have to wrap up the show.
Sorry, I keep talking too much.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But a question here from Rumble, ADellis24 says, what is your take on the YouTube channels that make videos on your Gotham material?
Oh, I'm all for it. Like, this book is meant to be about people filling in the gaps of the story. That's the interactive element for it, is that I give you enough information that these people exist, these informations happen, but as a reader, you're meant to fill in the gaps. So any of the YouTube videos, there people bought the book off me. Batfeed is probably the biggest. He's got, I think, about 50,000 followers and like over 1 million views on one of the videos. He contacted me originally, and he's been one of the big things that helped get the book known to people. So the book's full of fans, and it's treated like, Dungeons and Dragons, and that's the manual. Take it whether you want. It's meant for you to find out more about Batman and more about history and see where they kind of co-align. If I can get people into history and, good Batman stories, and, they just have to fill in the gaps, and that's what makes it more fun. Where we come from a period where we like to be challenged. We like to hunt things. We like to have these experiences, but yet everything we've made is just so convenient these days that we're not really engaging that part of our brain. The only time we get that brain engaged is when we're on TikTok trying to find a new video, what's going to engage it even more than what the previous one did.
Here's some comments here. I'm just going to read these comments. CD Stein 69 says, a Prohibition era Batman comic or movie would be phenomenal. Gotham by Gaslight is one of my favorite series of the alternate Batman universe. And from Rumble, ADellis24 says, the easiest way to tell it is unauthorized DC content is it superior to actual DC content. And then All Twisted Up says, please re-release Wikipedia's. I think he means Wikierotica.
Yeah, I will. It's just at the moment, I just don't have time to manage all that or resources. Yeah, I'm wrapping up a feature film. I've got a new book coming out early next year based on Ghostbusters. You would have seen earlier. I might as well announce this now. This is the first time I think I'm announcing it publicly, Chris. Big exclusive. In March, I'll be doing my Gotham Follies of 1939 stage show. Oh. So this is not the actual characters from the book. It's like a review format show, what they used to do back in the 30s and 40s. Well, for about 150 years.
Like vaudeville, like a vaudeville show.
Yeah. Vaudeville was one of the subcategories of the review format. You had like 4 subcategories. And that was like, the Ziegfeld Follies, vaudeville, burlesque, even minstrels were considered a part of the review format.
Vaudeville. Oh my God. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but vaudeville is where different versions of Alan and I would react to trailers live in front of an audience. Vaudeville was the early YouTube. Okay, that is the dumbest comment I will make today. But
pretty much. To put it in context, if you look at something like, they didn't know how to present contemporary news and that format, right. So satirical things. So if you look at something like in King Kong, the first thing they do with King Kong when they bring him to the city is put him on a Broadway stage, because that's how they made money out of current affairs. John Oliver would be on a Broadway stage. That's right. The kind of thing. John Stewart. So, but they used to have to get people in the door. You couldn't just present newsreels. So they had burlesque acts, they had jugglers, circus performers, and they'll theme them. So this is basically the character performers in the 1930s or early 40s, probably, doing a stage show based on the book. So It's very
Wow.
conceptual. I'm going to be trying to turn the theater into like a modern history museum based on the real things what happened. But then you go in and see the stage show. We're trying to put on the Iceberg Lounge up on the roof of the theater. So I'm trying to make it into a thing. It's
Okay,
going to
well-
be it's pretty epic.
When you come to town, you're gonna look me up, right? You're gonna let me know so we can hang out.
Hey, man, I always have time for you, Craig.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll get together and get to town. I have a super.
Chris, you didn't hear my joke, but that's okay.
Sorry. I drink,
Call Frank
therefore I
next time.
am. I drink, therefore I am for 1999 says, I agree that once a genre has reached its climax, it should be ceased and a new genre explored, which is why noir needs to come back. Unfortunately, there is no Alan Ladd or Veronica Lake, nor will there ever be. So we're going to wrap it up with that final comment.
I think you said that there'll be issues available or copies available in LA. How would I be able to pick that up?
So I don't know if they have them in store, but you could probably just go and ask them. So my store I align with in LA is Secret Headquarters.
Okay.
They also ship out my book as well. But Alan, just get Chris to email me. I'll sort you out.
Okay. And now it's time to do our giveaway. Here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do in the chat, I'm going to ask you a question. It is a trivia question related to Batman. And I'm just going to, the first person to answer this question correctly will win. And then all you do is you contact me. You can go to filmthreat.com/contact me, say, I am the winner. This is my name and address, and I'll send the address to Russell. So we're giving away one book. Is that right?
I'll give you two. I'll give two out.
Give you two. Okay. The first two people to get this correct. I'm looking for a number. The first appearance of Batman in Detective Comics, what number issue is it?
I think I know, but
yeah, I know. I know. I already know what the answer is. And there it is. Really old movies. Got it. And so did Mr. Conrad C83. The two of you, please reach out to me. Go to filmthreat.com/contact. Send me your addresses. I will send them to Russell, who will send you two. You'll each get a copy of the book. So there you go. Yeah, it was issue 27 of Detective Comics. One thing, I was talking to Gary Beekler, and I asked him, what was on the cover of Detective Comics number 26? You know what I mean? Like we know that like Amazing Fantasy number 15 is the first appearance of Spider-Man. What was on the cover of Amazing Fantasy number 14? Like nobody knows. Like I'm like, oh, what was on the cover of that? Because it's probably not worth very much, but it was the issue before Spider-Man or the issue before Batman made his first appearance. I don't know, food for thought, something to talk about on a comic stream. But we got to wrap it up. I got to get to a screening of a movie. Alan has to as well. Russell, great having you on the show. I cannot wait for this new show that you're doing. I will be buying tickets. I can't wait to see it. And look me up when you get to LA. You've got my number. You got everything. And I've been screaming about this book before I even knew you. I bought extra copies and I sent one to Gary from Nerdrotic. I said, you need to look at this. This is important. And I did videos on this years ago where I just showed it. I just showed your book. So
now I remember
because personally. So
yeah, I think we connected when you came and did an interview when I was over on tour, and you didn't realize I was the same. Yeah, you didn't realize I was the same person.
And my mind was blown because the Empire Strips Back. I didn't realize you're the guy who did that book, and then I couldn't. It was great, but yeah, I had you on an episode of my podcast. So when it was just audio. So hey, thank you, Russell. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
When you get to Los Angeles, and I'll get you those winners' addresses. Thanks again.
Great.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
Later. Bye.